Thank you all for Thank you all for coming to my talk today at PasswordsCon. First of all, even though they're not here, I would like to thank Per and all of the other organisers of PasswordsCon for allowing me to talk about something that I'm really passionate about, and also giving me the opportunity to present it to a bunch of people who are experts in the field that it lives in. So, as you may have guessed, I'm from Australia and my name is Sam Crowther. And this is a trip of firsts for me. It's the first time that I've left Australia. It's the first time that I've been to a city with over 15,000 miles of lights. And it's the first time that I've been with such a large group of people who share my passion for both passwords and information security. So just a bit of background. My journey didn't just start with United Airlines Flight 870 out of Sydney. It started 4 years ago when, as a high school student, the coding light bulb switched on. 2 years ago, I was engaged by Australia's Defence Signals Directorate to work in information security. This was the first time that they engaged a high school student. I graduated from high school at the end of last year and opted to defer my university studies in order to take a gap year. While most Australians regard a gap year as a year to holiday and travel around the world, I opted to work in information security with a global consulting company, BAE Systems Applied Intelligence, and a global investment bank. Now, I love cryptography. This interest sparked my desire to make a difference in the discipline of password security, and it helps me address what I call the password twins. How do we make passwords more secure? But how do we make the user experience better? I've titled this presentation, "The Future of Mobile Authentication is Here." In the next 30 minutes or so, I would like to discuss why I made this program, describe how it works, demonstrate it, and most importantly, encourage questions and discussions from you guys in the audience. I hope that by the end of this presentation that you too will feel that this alternative to alphanumeric practices can mean password security is significantly enhanced whilst at the same time making things easier for the users of mobile devices. So, why did I develop USIG? Well, I developed it out of my frustration with three things. Firstly, the amount of sites requiring passwords. Secondly, the growing number of strong passwords that we have to have. And thirdly, the aggregating and aggravating challenge of trying to remember all of these passwords. The more I talked with friends and family, the more I experienced it wasn't just me getting irritated by passwords. And that's when I knew I could and should try to make a difference. To help validate my feelings, I surveyed almost 1,000 people and asked them about their experiences, attitudes, and preferences towards passwords. And by the way, I have the results in this handout here if you're interested to have a look. Now, most users are aware of the purpose of passwords, as well as the importance of the security of personal information. But they take risks with both the content and the storage of passwords. And this is because there's just a growing number of passwords that we need, as well as an increased time resetting those strong passwords, which we're meant to remember, and frustration with the inconsistencies of different password systems and requests to change them. Did you know that most users are actually worried about their password security because they're written down in so many different places? Most users will also stop using a website if they get too frustrated with the password system. Some other interesting takeouts from this research include 94% of people access 1 to 6 password-protected websites weekly. 70% of users use the same password across multiple websites. More than 50% will change their password only slightly when requested. Less than 20% feel positive about this change. and 67% of people believe that passwords are reducing the quality of digital life. Mobile devices are focusing the pains and problems of passwords, and without an intervention like USIG, the pain and problems will only continue to grow. Researchers from Microsoft and Carleton University released a paper on password portfolios last month. They pretty much hit the nail on the head when they said the human impossibility of reusing strong passwords consistently. In a paper presented to the MIT Sloan School of Management in 2012, researcher Iltak Bey said, "We are seeing a significant shift from the PC and laptop to mobile devices such as smartphones and PCs." Bey's observations were echoed by Carolina Minolesi, Research Vice President of Gartner, when she said, "As consumers shift their time away from their PC to tablets and smartphones, they will no longer see their PC as a device that they need to replace on a regular basis." I sum all these researchers' quotes up into one thing. Mobile is the key to our digital lives. Now that you have seen the background on why I created USIG, I would like to explain how it works. USIG takes advantage of one of the greatest sources of entropy, photographs. So what's it do with photographs? Well, USIG analyzes the data behind a photograph and then concatenates these pieces of data with randomly generated keys. These keys are then hashed with the SHA-3 512 Keccak hash and put into one string to form the user's password. Now, looking around the room, I know that most of you guys will be interested in the maths behind it. So here it is. Let's take a 4-digit PIN. There are 10 to the 4th possible combinations of a 4-digit PIN. And for a regular 8-character password on a 95-character keyboard, there's 10 to the 16 possible combinations. But when we look at the USIG key, there's 10 to the 463rd power possible combinations for the key that is generated with the USIG program. Respected security practitioners in industry, government and universities in Australia have favourably critiqued the security of this program. One even described it in the way that the universe will end before hackers are able to brute force this key with today's current technologies. To back all this up, I put the details of the USIG key into McAfee-owned Open Research's brute force calculator, and here are the results. And by the way, this is the specs of the world's fastest supercomputer, exhausting it's a big number of keys per second, and infinity years. So what I'd like to do is just give you a bit of background and show you the program. Oops. So the app is currently in development, but if this will work, is it going to? Oh, we're up. Okay, so just to give you an idea of what this program looks and feels like, I thought I'd give you a quick demonstration. So here we are at a registration screen. Now, the app already knows my name because I've previously registered, but we would put our username in here, and then we would press this select your image button, and then we would choose a photograph in our camera roll. So now we've registered to the USIG application. We'll log out, and we'll log back in again as a returning user. So the process is very simple. We press this button, and we select that photo once again, and that's how it authenticates us. Now this key generated is changed every time, so it's very similar to a one-time password. However, it can be a static password as well. So after seeing that and showing you guys the program, I'd really like to discuss it with you guys because you're the experts. I'm only 18 and I don't know everything, so I'd really like to get your opinions and any feedback that you may have. So are there any questions?
authentication, the USIG program just creates the hash and pastes that into the clipboard for you to use on the website?
No, so the idea would be, you know how there's a login with Facebook or a login with Google button on some websites? You would press a login with USIG button. It would then take you over to the USIG app, which would generate your key and then send that back to the server, which would have a piece of code and a database on their side, which would then compare that hash with their database's entries.
Could you just back up a little bit and tell me what is it that's in users' heads when they know their password or whatever it is for a site?
So, as in the photograph?
Yeah. So where are these photographs coming from?
So these photographs are coming from photos that the user has taken. And this is because as we're humans, we're naturally visual beings and we like to see things. So we can remember a photograph much better than we can remember, a 12-character password.
And so really the key space is kind of like the number of photos that these users might have, as opposed to actually being the space generated by those hashes. And are you concerned about people using photos that they may have posted on social media or shared with?
So this is locked down. Each photo is locked down to the device in the way that the program processes the photograph and generates that hash. As well, so if they could use a photo that other people have on other devices, but the account and that photograph will be restricted to that device. And as well as that, so it'll be rate limited to maybe 3 attempts, and then it'll block you out for 5 minutes or the usual sort of stuff. But as well as that, if you have below a certain threshold of photographs or feel that you want an additional factor, because then you wouldn't use this on your own, you want to combine this with an additional factor, you could opt to have a 2 or a 4-digit PIN as well as the photograph.
How does that work with multiple computers?
Pardon?
How does it work with multiple computers? From your camera a little bit. Are you like on the cloud to store your photo?
No, so the photo never leaves the device. What would happen if you want it, so at the moment it's just for mobile devices. So if you wanted it on your tablet and your smartphone, you could email, but you'd have to authenticate that tablet if you'd already registered on your smartphone to access your account. And then, yep, or you could, with Apple's iCloud, you sync them automatically, or you could choose another photograph if that's what you wanted.
So I've got 3 mobile devices on me. I want to log into one website. I'm going to need to register 3 different USIG passwords, let's call them, on that site.
So at the moment, yes, you would. But if you had one device that you wanted to use for banking, then you would only ideally register that device for your banking website with USIG or etc. like that.
So basically, you take a picture, compute a hash from it, and use it for something else. So why do you need a picture at all? Why don't you just use a hash value?
So the picture is sort of like the something you know combined with something you have part of the authentication. And then, so instead of entering the password, you select the picture. So that's what that process is trying to replace.
You use gifted function, basically do it without it. Automatically use a hash that is already stored. The picture is searchable anyway, so if it's picture or hash, stored disappearing, does it make any difference?
Yeah, you need to, because of the way the hash is generated, you need to select the photo every time.
How is the hash generated?
So it fingerprints the device, as well as looking at segments of data in the photograph from the headers, as well as bits of information that are throughout the body of the photograph, and then puts them together with bits of information that change, like the current time, as well as a Unix timestamp, which is how the one-time password part's generated. No, it's not objective like recognition technology. It looks at just the binary data behind it. Any more?
Developers don't have to do anything special.
No. This is all, it's designed to be plug and play for developers essentially. Yeah.
You mistakenly take a picture.
Again, so if you mistakenly send it out, the accounts are locked down to certain devices, and that device will only allow those certain photos to be used. So if for example, you share it on social media, and someone else, oh, delete it, sorry, I thought you said leak. If you accidentally delete it, that's when a process similar to that of a password reset would take place.
How much of this is going on your servers?
Most of it happens client side. That's where most of the processing is. Server side, it's just a regular comparison of a hash to a hash stored in a database.
Can we have access with it to play with it?
Not yet. The app's still being developed, but it will be released soon. And then when it is, I can send it out to Per to distribute a link.
So is it like a OAuth thing that authentication from a central server, or is the authentication happening at a website?
So that'll be both, depending on what the client needs. So if there's someone who's sensitive about security, like a bank, then it would be local. However, if it was someone who's not so sensitive, then it would be an OAuth lookup.
So since you have to reselect the picture every time, it's the result in hash change every time you select the picture.
Yeah.
And how does the server know ahead of time what the hash is going to use to compare it?
So the server has pieces of data from, not actual pieces of data from the photo, but hashed pieces of data, which it'll then generate a one-time password if it's using the one-time password system on its end and compare them to make sure that it's a valid one-time password. Any more? Are we good? Oh. That's a really good question. We'll have a chat about that later. That's a good question. So I've got running out of time, so we'll draw to a close, but I'll be here for the rest of B-Sides for some of Black Hat and DEF CON. So if anyone wants to come and have a chat, feel free. I'd love to talk. After listening to this presentation, I hope you've got 3 messages out of this. That mobile is the key to our digital lives. That USIG is a working solution to the pains and problems of passwords. And that USIG offers higher levels of security and a much better user experience. Thanks.